Hello, Fayetteville. I am Councilman DeAndre Jones, Ward 1, Position 2. My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. The late South African Bishop Desmond Tutu. Racial healing is a tool and a process for celebrating our common humanity, acknowledging the truth from our shared story, and recognizing our collective potential. Through racial healing, we can forge deep, meaningful relationships, lay the groundwork to transform broken systems, and bridge the divides to transform communities for our children and future generations. Racial healing is not only important, but also essential because healing is at the heart of racial equity. The National Day of Racial Healing is an opportunity for people, organizations, and communities to call for racial healing, bring people together in their shared humanity, and take action together to create a more just and equitable world, a more just and equitable Fayetteville. Today's theme is building authentic relationships, inspiring collective action on how to heal from the effects of systemic racism. The National Day of Racial Healing is part of the W.K. Kellogg's Foundation's Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation effort, a national and community-based process to plan for and bring about change, sustainable change, and to address the historic and contemporary effects of racism. Today, the city of Fayetteville will officially recognize National Day of Racial Healing. We will begin with the proclamation from our illustrious Mayor Lionel Jordan. Mayor Jordan will be followed by J.L. Higgins, Chair of the Fayetteville Black Heritage Commission. Chairperson Jennings will shed light on the important work of the commission conducive to racial healing. Reverend Dr. Angela Mont, Intern Vice Chancellor of the University of Arkansas, Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, will follow Commissioner Jennings. Dr. Muntz will deliver remarks, the significance of unity in racial healing. Sharon Killian, Board President of the Northwest Arkansas Black Heritage Association, will share the importance of preserving African American landmarks and racial unity. Pastor Curtis Smith, Senior Pastor of the historic St. James Missionary Baptist Church, will issue a call to action related to the importance of healing as we move forward. Thank you so much. Fayetteville forward together, not one step back. And I present to you our mayor, the illustrious Mayor Lionel Jordan.
Thank you, DeAndre. Can you all see me? Good. Okay. I was thinking about what I was going to say today. And I think about past, present, and future. When I was reading this proclamation, I was thinking about the children and the future of our children. And you know, folks, we need to remember the past and the mistakes that we've made. And you know, there's a saying that says, when we know better, we do better. And we learn from the mistakes of the past, and we do better today because we owe that to our future of our children and our children's children. So we don't want to forget about the past. We need to remember it. We need to learn from it. We need to do better, and then we do better for our children, and then our children will do better because we did better, and on we go. So, this proclamation I bring today, and it reads, whereas like those who came before us, it is our duty to protect the children of the city of Fayetteville and maintain communities in which they may be given the opportunity to succeed. And whereas we must all work earnestly to create courageous and supportive environments that acknowledge the traumatic past promote the healing of the wounds created by racial, ethnic, and religious bias, and build an equitable and just society so that all children can thrive. And whereas children have the right to be provided every opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in nurturing environments that do not violate their safety, dignity, and humanity. Whereas every single person has the opportunity to exhibit an act of kindness, to make a simple change within themselves that can have a profound effect on an entire society. And whereas if we all dedicate ourselves to the principles of truth, racial healing, and transformation, we can all bring about the necessary changes in thinking and behavior that will propel this great city forward as a unified force for racial biases will become a thing of the past. And whereas racial healing is a vital and critical commitment to the educational, social, mental, and overall well-being of all residents in the city of Fayetteville, particularly our children. Now, therefore, I, Lionel Jordan, Mayor of the great city of Fayetteville, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim January 18, 2023 as National Day of Racial Healing in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I urge all citizens to promote truth, racial healing, and transformation in the ways that are best suited for them individually as a means to working together to ensure the best quality of life for every child. DeAndre, I will present this to you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. And I would like to call up Sharon Killian, Sean Walker, and J.L. Jennings to accept this proclamation on behalf of the African American community. Both Sean and J.L. serve as a member of the Black Preservation Committee. And of course, Sharon Killian is with the Northwest Arkansas. Sharon, what's the name of your group? I just said it.
Innovative Black Heritage.
Yes, and Sharon is with the Northwest Arkansas Black Heritage Association. I'm sorry about that. So they will be accepting this on behalf of the African American community from Mayor Lionel Jordan.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Sharon, and here's a folder.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. At this time, let's welcome Commissioner J.L. Jennings to the podium.
Thank you, Councilmember Jones and Mr. Mayor for hosting this great event. I must say that I'm proud to live in a city where its administration recognizes its citizens for who they are and works tirelessly to ensure that we all feel and understand that we all belong. And I believe this is one major reason why Fayetteville consistently is recognized as one of the best cities to live in our great country. According to the National League of Cities, the National Day of Racial Healing was launched as a call to action for racial healing for all people. It's a part of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation's National Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation efforts. Those efforts include two foundational pillars, which are narrative change and truth-telling. And two, relationship building and racial healing. And Fayetteville is doing its part in supporting these efforts beyond events like today. In 2021, the City Council, under the leadership of Councilmember Jones, created the Black Heritage Preservation Commission. In January 2022, we began our work. I'm honored that the commissioners chose me to serve as the chair of the commission, and I'm proud of the work that we have been able to accomplish so far. Our commission was charged with identifying historic markers that could tell the history of Fayetteville that has been untold. This aligns directly with the Kellogg Foundation's two pillars. We are changing the narrative and telling truths. The commission worked with Dr. Michael Pierce and Dr. Caree Banton to tell the story of Nelson Hackett and to memorialize Mr. Hackett with a historic marker which will be installed on the Fayetteville Square later this year. Mr. Hackett was an enslaved man in Fayetteville who fled captivity for freedom in Canada before ultimately being extradited back to Fayetteville, where his enslavers publicly whipped him and sold him ultimately to slavers in Texas as punishment for his actions. Mr. Hackett's journey for freedom inspired abolitionists and supporters of humanity to fight for change. As a result, the British government changed its extradition laws to make it more difficult to send refugees back into captivity. The Department of Arkansas Heritage acknowledged this compelling Arkansas history and awarded the commission with the Curtis Sykes Memorial Grant to cover the cost of purchasing Mr. Hackett's memorial and its installation. Additionally, the commission worked with the City Council to change the name of a street honoring Archibald Yale to honor Mr. Hackett and his incredible story. While we are proud of the work that the commission has done so far, we're not finished yet. We will continue to look for opportunities for racial healing and building relationships. And we will strive to continue truth-telling and changing the narrative to tell Fayetteville's untold history. Narratives like Mr. Hackett's are important types of narratives that heal communities. They heal communities because they bring communities together to recognize the contributions of all citizens. And in this case, not just to celebrate Black history or Arkansas history, but world history that originated here in Fayetteville with Mr. Hackett's journey. Councilmember Jones already stated this quote, but I think it's worth hearing again. And I'll close my remarks with them from Desmond Tutu. My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jennings, for helping Fayetteville change the narrative. At this time, we will have the Reverend Dr. Angela Muntz, Interim Vice Chancellor of the University of Arkansas, Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Reverend Dr. Muntz will deliver remarks, powerful remarks, relating to the significance of unity in racial healing. Let's welcome Reverend Dr. Angela Muntz to the podium.
Good afternoon. Well, I guess Councilman Jones has set me up for delivering a great message, so I guess I must do that. So this afternoon, I'd like to speak on race, unity, and healing. Race, unity, and healing. Three powerful words that independently speak. Grouped together, they can bring a different meaning and greater power. Some may think that race depends on one's skin color. However, race is a social construct. Rather, there are no inherent biological traits when you talk about race. The American Medical Association special meeting of its House of Delegates in support of efforts to confront our country's history on race put together a policy. On November the 16th, 2020, the policies reflect an understanding of race as a socially construct category different from ethnicity, genetics, ancestry, or biology, and aim to end the misinterpretation of race as a biological category. By doing this, the policies note the practice of accepting race as a biological construct is known as racial essentialism. It exacerbates health disparities and results in the detrimental health outcome for marginalized and marginalized communities. Race is not used to marginalize and underrepresented communities in the health field, but also in education, family, religion, government, and the economy. So, why is it important to talk about race, healing, and unity together? Because, as the article stated, race matters because it is an imperfect proxy for racism and racial discrimination. Healing must be talked about because we cannot move forward until the open wounds must be closed and no longer covered with a band aid. Healing is defined as the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. The Cambridge Dictionary defines healing as a process in which a bad situation or painful emotions end or improves. We must address healing for communities facing disparities. Healing only begins when the hurt is shared with everyone. Legene Montgomery Tabron, president and CEO of W.K. Kellogg Foundation, states, racial healing is a process we can undertake as individuals and communities and across society. In healing, we recognize our common humanity, acknowledge the truth of past wrongs, and build authentic relationships capable of transforming communities and shifting our national discourse. Unity, put simply, is the state of being unified or joined as a whole. Today, as we look at racial healing and unity, we can use the recipe outlined by Dr. Christopher Cone. He stated, racial equality and healing seems like distant dreams. It does not look hopeful that we will see equality practice and healing taking place anytime soon. However, Dr. Cone presents 5 principles for us to practice when we talk about racial healing. Principle number 1, walk in a manner worthy. If we are walking the way we should be walking, regardless of our ethnic, socioeconomic, or other differences, we will be walking in consideration of each other. Each of us must look in the mirror first and must take care of our own walk first before we expect anything of others. Maintain humility and gentleness. These 2 characteristics are uniquely capable of promoting unity, equality, and healing. Principle number 3, have patience. Principle number 4, show tolerance. Excuse me. Principle number 5, being diligent to preserve unity. The Kellogg Foundation also says, as a unified community, as we recognize the need to acknowledge and tell the truth about past wrongs created by individual and systemic racism and address the present consequences, we can transform systems and structures. First, we must listen. Second, we must become open to one another's perspectives and experiences and allow ourselves to be impacted or transformed by our experiences. The question I leave with you is, what can we do as a unified community to promote racial healing? Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Angela Mont. Residents of Fayetteville, those who are present and those who are watching this through Zoom or live stream, Dr. Mont has presented a question. And that question, of course, is, What can we do together? Thank you, Dr. Reverend Angela Mont. In order to address and in the fight for racial unity, it's very important that we preserve African American landmarks. Sharon Killian, Board President of the Northwest Arkansas Black Heritage Association, is here to share with us. Sharon, please come to the podium.
Good afternoon, Mayor Jordan, members of the Fayetteville City Council, members of our community, and municipal leaders and employees. My name is Sharon Killian, as DeAndre said, and I'm president of NWA Black Heritage here in Northwest Arkansas. I am here speaking with you today on this National Day of Racial Healing in the year 2023 about preserving historic buildings that are significant to our Black community in Fayetteville and Northwest Arkansas. I'm speaking with you about the importance of this to racial healing in our city. I am deeply invested in saving and restoring the only remaining African American community left in Northwest Arkansas. The Black community that evolved in Fayetteville along Spout Spring Branch and Willow Avenue. The neighborhood began to the north of Lafayette Street and Fletcher Avenue, adjacent to the Henderson School for Blacks on Olive Avenue, and ran south along the branch to the valley along Route 16 or Huntsville Road and the Deal subdivision where Jefferson School is located. The branch neighborhood has been in a continuous state of transformation orchestrated by our very own municipality, along with the white residents who were themselves former slavers. These slaving families grew wealthy by the labor and skills of the Black people they owned and handed down to their children as slaves for life. After World War II, the growing white middle class understood the benefits of partnering with the wealthy gentry to reap the benefits of home ownership and land acquisition. The survival of any part of this historical neighborhood is a miracle that was orchestrated by individuals in the Black community like James Cortez Hoover, who was born in 1896 in the Harris community near Elkins. This community was erased during the years of Red Summer across the South. Mr. Hoover was a World War I veteran who worked at the city hospital as a janitor. Mr. Hoover was the primary bone setter in City Hospital for many years. A wing of that hospital was named after him. James Hoover helped to keep the community together and on their meager earnings collected a donation to the U of A School of Law to thank them for admitting Silas Hunt as a student who actually lived in the community while he was going to school. Mr. Hoover's legacy has been largely erased with the demolition of the city hospital. Lodine Defaba is another person instrumental in slowing down the ravages of erasure. Her notes are in the University of Arkansas Special Collections, not in her own box, but relegated to reside in the box of Lori Bashore, a white woman and ally who advocated Lodine Defaba's work to save the Black community and to integrate the schools. The erasure of our Black community has been largely planned. We've lost memory of the names you might never hear. The formalized aspect of the erasure plan was written down first for public consumption as the City of Fayetteville Master Plan in 1945. Because the erasure was then codified, it became easy for the city and the school board and the University of Arkansas experts and the social and political machine to displace entire families and any Black residential area here under the guise of eliminating blight. The 1945 Fayetteville Master Plan is a must-read. Every City of Fayetteville employee, including the city attorney's office, should read it to see how the spirit of racial segregation and African American disenfranchisement is expressed. In fact, you will read in that plan that schools are a useful tool to enforce racial segregation. Every church congregation should read it to find the names of their congregants who helped to develop the system and perpetuate racial segregation and African American disenfranchisement. Also read the 1968 Master Plan to see how urban renewal has continued to be used as a means to eradicate and erase the African American community, individual homeowner by individual homeowner. Studies by the Brookings Institution and many others show the codified systematic theft of African American wealth is part of a broader pattern of holding down the value of homes and land when Black people own it, and then boosting the value when white people take it over. The white middle class was established through home ownership and benefits still from this erasure pattern. I mention all of these things so that you can realize that there are actually documentations out there for us to learn from, that we need to make a stop and look back at what we're working from, the tools we're using to function, that we need to know so that we can make change. Murals of individuals significant to the Black community on the branch are at Walker Park, where we have largely been removed in the gentrification that has been named SoFe. Historic 20th and 21st century Black landscape has been consumed by it. The challenge that is met by cities like ours is that the intention of the master plan is to leave no remnants of the Black community. The rock entry columns and part of the original school structure of the historic Henderson School still remain at its original location. The school was closed by the Fayetteville municipality to move the Black community downhill. It was much easier now to get water on the hilltop, and the view was just perfect for gentrification. The Lincoln School was built downhill on Center and Willow Street in 1939, and then was destroyed when Black children were allowed to attend the Jefferson School in 1965, almost 10 years after integration was mandated. Since the closing of Fayetteville and Arkansas's first public school, Henderson, Black residents have been pushed from the area near Lafayette, Olive and Willow Street south toward Mountain Street, and further down to 6th Street, now MLK Boulevard. NWA Black Heritage and members of the Black community look forward to working with the city of Fayetteville to develop the master plan of the historic African American community on the Spout Spring branch with an eye toward restorative justice. I know that these matters are not easy to hear, but we have to hear them, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon. Fayetteville, we have come a long way, but we have a lot of more work to do. Sharon, thank you for speaking truth to power. Truth is part of change. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our elected officials today. Elected officials, please stand. we have Kara Paxton, city recorder, and we have Chandra Washington, who represents Fayetteville on the Washington County Quorum Court. Thank you both for your leadership. And lastly, we have Pastor Curtis Smith, the senior pastor of the historic St. James Missionary Baptist Church. St. James has been on the front lines leading the cause of racial unity in Fayetteville since its inception. We appreciate Fayetteville, we appreciate St. James and the work that they're doing in the community. Not only are they feeding souls, but they're also providing providing food to nourish the body. As a matter of fact, the St. James Food Pantry is the largest and fastest growing food pantry in our region. We appreciate St. James and Pastor Curtis because every time we call, St. James is not only leading the way, but they're walking alongside of us. And Fayetteville would not be Fayetteville. Fayetteville will not be the welcoming community if it were not for the support, the engagement, and the work of St. James among many other African American churches here. So at this time, I call Pastor Curtis Smith to the podium. And today, Pastor Curtis is going to give us a call to action. We recognize that National Day of Racial Unity nationally is set aside for 2 days. But here in Fayetteville, the work is ongoing. And in order to do that, our speakers today have laid the foundation. Pastor Smith is going to give us a call to action. And now it is up to the mayor, the council, and the citizens of Fayetteville to see it through. Ladies and gentlemen, Pastor Curtis Smith, I yield the podium to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here in person in Fayetteville. We're moving forward together, not one step back.
Thank you, Councilman Jones, to Mayor Jordan, to the council, and those residents of our great city of Fayetteville. 8 minutes and 46 seconds during a global pandemic and a growing recession. It took less than 9 minutes for our nation to collectively be at a standstill. And some of us cried out loud, some were angry, some were baffled. Whatever your reaction, George Floyd's murder served as a catalyst for our nation to take a painful look in the mirror. And the incident, unfortunately, was not the first of its kind. And sadly, it won't be the last. But when the Kellogg Foundation launched the National Day of Racial Healing in 2017, as part of its Truth and Racial Healing Transformation effort, the overarching purpose of the day was for individuals, groups, and communities to come together and acknowledge how systemic racism is woven into the fabric of our nation and to work to dismantle it. And we understand that it is a tall order to address systemic racism and foster healing, but it's one that, if we are honest, that we are intimately familiar with. And so as our nation confronts the long-standing issues of injustice and violence against Black and Indigenous, Hispanic, Latinx, and Asian Pacific Islander people, I would like to express my strongest solidarity with Black Lives Matter and other social justice movements working to end systemic racism embedded in U.S. society and institutions. Here's the reality: the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and many others who lost their lives to systemic racism and police brutality have brought people across our nation to speak out for change. And the violence acts across the nation come at a time when COVID-19 has already profoundly disrupted our world. Communities of color have been the hardest hit by this pandemic, which are the same communities that are continuously weighed down by a history of prejudice and poverty and racism. Not that it slightly subsided. People of color, the reality, are still suffering. And to begin to really understand racism, you need to see how it operates in all aspects of life, including academic and professional life, often lurking just below the surface in ways that hurt, stigmatize, and uphold it. But there must be truth and reconciliation in healing. For it is the process of truth and reconciliation is aimed at healing divided communities through working to transform pain and oppression into collaboration and healing. How do you move forward after horrible things have happened, like colonization and genocide and slavery and massacres, and when the status quo is unjust? The process of truth and reconciliation helps divided groups and communities move forward in a meaningful way. It focuses on healing as opposed to punishment, and is the only process I know of that can really build sustainable bridges for both the privileged and the oppressed. In a place where a long legacy of colonization and violence and genocide and oppression are ubiquitous to a country or communities past or present. And so, although there are various approaches to this process, I want to briefly consider these: truth sharing, acknowledging truth and the legacies of injustice, collaboration and restoration. Through truth sharing and acknowledging not only truth, but the legacies of injustice stemming from what has happened in this nation, the process builds a starting point for healing. I remember my seminary professor once saying, "You must see and feel a wound in order to heal it." Shining a truth in light, not to punish, but to heal, is key to the process, because truth is central to trust building, which is also key. Next, the process involves collaboration and restoring relationships, building bridges where they did not exist, and building on strength and common goals and values in our shared humanity can help divided groups unite and collaborate. But finally, restoration and healing can occur. Healing can come in a myriad of ways and can look different to everyone in every community. But for me, the key is action. What actions foster restoration and healing? And each community may be different, but the outcome is aimed at transformation. So here's my charge: acknowledge and address biases. We all carry implicit biases, which are the unconscious attitudes that shape our understanding and actions. They are with us all the time and make their way in every aspect of our lives. We recognize and acknowledge our biases, practice humility, and retain continued commitment to learning about ourselves and others. And as we mitigate bias by incorporating diverse perspectives through co-creation with those who have a range of living experiences outside of yours. But here's the action: collaborate with people of all races, talents, perspectives, and insights to create better solutions that truly represent the people we serve. Practice anti-racism. An equitable future requires deliberate, sustained, and anti-racist action. We take action as individuals each day to stand against racism so that over time we change mindsets and build a culture of racial equity. We balance creating life and inclusive spaces by respectfully meeting people where they are in their journey by practicing anti-racism. But here's the call to action: advocate, partner, and support through inclusion and opportunity. Practice clear, empathetic communication and speak up against racism and microaggressions.
but also lead with accountability. Leadership requires promoting and holding ourselves and community accountable to our racial equity values in our city government, our churches, and workplaces. We must take responsibility as individuals and as a community for using restorative practice that emphasize building healthy, trusting relationships. We lead through implementing equitable hiring and influencing other organizations to uphold human-centered values that affect change. How do we do this? Here's the action. Practice leadership by promoting racial equity values, standing up, speaking out, and proactively designing an equitable future. And lastly, reimagine and drive systems to promote equity. Racial equity is a result of pervasive societal systems that were built over many centuries promoting white privilege. Yet systems of oppression cannot simply be fixed by saying, "I'm sorry," or "that wasn't me." It must be reimagined. We need comprehensive, sustained action in the governmental, community, and individual levels to rethink the status quo and create a more equitable system. And here's the action. Challenge the status quo. Intentionally raise awareness, ask questions, and remind colleagues. Incorporate equity into each iteration and get it on every plan or platform or roadmap to success. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Curtis Smith. That call to action is well received. And Fayetteville, thank you so much for coming out, for participating, and have a great rest of the day.